Belisarius Cawl, a towering figure in the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40K universe, is 10,000 standard years old, Archmagos Dominus of the Adeptus Mechanicus, one of the ruling lords of the priesthood of Mars, the most revered and powerful of all tech priests. His relentless pursuit of knowledge, technology, and his quest for innovation has led him down a path that is both revered by many, feared by some, and even called a heretic by some within his own domain. Cawl is a devout servant of the Omnissiah, the machine god of the Mechanicus. He views himself as a vessel for the divine entity's will, dedicated to advancing the Imperium's technological prowess. His work has led to countless innovations, from powerful weapons and vehicles to advanced artificial intelligence. Cawl created the Primaris Space Marines and many new Imperial weapons and vehicles. His assistance was crucial in ending the first part of the Indomitus crusade and restoring stability to the Imperium Sanctus in the early era Indomitus. He is working hard to find a way to close the Great Rift for humanity using the Necron's Blackstone Cadian pylon technology. Belisarius Cawl is a terrifying combination of flesh and machine that walks into battle on many metal legs while dressed in red Martian robes. Cawl is a monstrous creature to meet in battle because he has spent thousands of years fiddling with technology and trying to make himself better every time in every way. His swollen body is several times the height of a normal man, and his mind holds the knowledge of many geniuses, each with thousands of years worth of wisdom. Belisarius, as we will now learn in detail, is one of the most dangerous entities to inhabit the Imperium, and we should be glad he is on our side. While more than 10,000 Terran years have passed, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Cawl remains alive. It's unclear how he has been able to stay alive. Even the most advanced systems for rejuvenation and augmetics can't usually keep a human mind alive for that long. Over those many years, the tech priest has worked as a forge lord and a lexico arcanus for Mars and the machine god, but as magos biologis, Cawl is at his most skilled. People are right when they say that the old Archmagos Dominus has forgotten more than anyone could ever hope to learn, especially about genetics. Magos Biologis Hammereth ran the Xanthi Terra birthing facilities on Mars, where Cawl was born sometime in the early 31st millennium. Like most children on Mars, he was born in a vat, and he was already mentally and physically a young teen when he was born. However, unlike most Martian children, he was able to speak properly from birth. This is because he was able to fully absorb the information that was sent to all Mechanicum fetuses while he was pregnant. In Imperial history, Cawl first showed up for real during the Horus heresy. He was a tech acolyte on the Mechanicum world of Trisolian A4 in the Trisolian system. He learned from Magos Domina Hester Aspertia Sigma Sigma, who was an expert in soul merging, which means making a digital copy of someone else's mind and psyche and then using cybernetic implants to join it with someone else's. At this time, his best friend and neighbour was another tech priest named Friedrich Adam Ship Kuvo. Cawl, the last person who knew how to use this technology, believed that the Emperor was the Omnissiah, which was the Orthodox Mechanicum's theological view. However, he disagreed with much of the rest of the Mechanicum dogma because he thought that the real quest for knowledge was to seek out new technologies rather than mindlessly maintaining the Imperium's current technology base. As the Emperor had taught, Cawl thought that the human form was better than other forms, and he refused to make many of the more obvious mechanical changes that other tech priests did. At the same time, though, the young Cawl did illegal surgeries on his brain to make himself smarter. Hester Aspertia Cawl's lover, Sigma Sigma, betrayed him when she joined the War Master's side and helped the traitor forces attack the Trisolian system. When he saw Horus twisted by chaos, Cawl felt sick, but he pretended to submit to the servants of the ruinous powers in order to stay alive. Later, when they were trying to control Trisolian A4, Cawl and Friedrich Adam Ship Kuvo were able to kill Aspertia Sigma Sigma for betraying them and get out of the Trisolian system. But not before Cawl merged his mind with Aspertia Sigma Sigma's intelligence core, teaching her how to clone and merge souls. Cawl and Friedrich were able to get out of the Trisolian system and find safety on Terra. Ezekiel Sedain, a brilliant geneticist and the second director of the biotechnical division, had called Cawl back. His job was to create and improve the Legionese Astartes' genetic lines. However, Sedain was now so old that even treatments meant to make him younger were not enough to keep him alive. Sedain only wanted Cawl's knowledge of cloning and soul merging because he wanted to live forever, and keep working for the Emperor. He believed that merging his mind with Cawl's would restore his dominant personality. Sedaine got what he wanted when his helper, Altrix Herminia, killed Friedrich. Geneticists said he would bring Cawl's friend back to life, but only if the tech priest agreed to use his soul-merging technology to merge their minds inside of Cawl's body, which would let Sedaine live forever. When they were all together again, though, Cawl's personality took over Sedaine's in their combined Gestalt awareness. Upon awakening from the process, Cawl recalled his first encounter with Sedaine during the early stages of the Unification Wars. When the Emperor first saw Sedaine, he called him Belisarius Cawl instead of his own name, as his powerful psychic ability allowed him to predict Sedaine's demise hundreds of years in the future. During the memory, the Emperor told Cawl of the future that it would be his job to carry on his work. Cawl felt compelled to carry out this task, even on the day he realised he had violated everything the Emperor stood for. The young Cawl was scared at the thought of betraying the Emperor. Raibut Guilliman, the Imperium's first Lord Commander and new Imperial Regent, gave Cawl 2 tasks to complete if the Primarch died after the Horus heresy ended. They included building the Armour of Fate, a life-saving armour suit. The second goal was to keep the Emperor's sword safe. This was the blade that the Master of all creation gave Guilliman, and it held a piece of his holy power. Cawl learned a lot about genetics during his soul merger with Sedaine. This, along with the powerful genetic material inside the Sang Primus Portum device, helped him finish making the Primaris Space Marines and start the Ultima founding around the year 999 M41, using candidates who had been frozen deep beneath Mars since the time of the heresy until the 41st millennium. This was the result of 10,000 years of work to make the Emperor's creation even better. However, Cawl changed a lot during the 10,000 years he worked on Terra. Cawl slowly changed his body until it was much more like a machine than a person. He used to be a tech priest who didn't like how other techs used a lot of mechanical enhancements. With the soul merging technology, he started to blend more minds into his own cybernetic intelligence core. Over the years, the Archmagos slowly transformed into a Gestalt being, which is better described as a mix of souls than a collection of minds. As the years went by, Cawl also started to forget a lot of things because he had to delete data from his intelligence core every 500 standard years because it had limited space. Despite twice having his own memories stolen, Cawl remains a tech savant and a genius at the forefront of any field he pursues. Even in the Adeptus Mechanicus, where manufactured devices make people smarter and live longer than ever before, it is very rare for individuals to have so much knowledge in so many different fields. We refer to others as prime conduits of the Omnissiah, or Dominatus Dominus, a Latin term that translates to Master of Masters. Cawl is by far the most active of the few who are still alive and working for the priesthood of Mars. Cawl works hard on many projects at once. Cawl's thoughts constantly shift from constructing Mars's largest macromagnet, enhancing his stasis research, and conducting innumerable experiments in his expansive labs nestled deep within the vast complexes of Mars. Most of these intense activities happen behind closed doors. Cawl has so many projects going at once that he has added multiple, separate consciousnesses to keep track of them and use sneaky methods to hide them from his many competitors. Cawl's many-sided servo eyes await numerous tests deep within unopenable vaults. Ancient tech priest has been forgetful since he reloaded some of his memories. He often spends decades healing in his own stasis crypts, but being offline for such long amounts of time makes Cawl want to go out and learn again. At these times, Cawl dons the robes of Archmagos Dominus and calls together Skitarii legions and Legio Cybernetica maniples to help him. Even though Cawl is from Mars, other Forge worlds often give him troops to lead and ask that he share any information he gains. Cawl is a powerful fighter on the battlefield, and he jumps right into the middle of the action without fear. Cawl's force field blocks most enemy weapon fire, but even if parts of his mechanized body are shot off, wires shoot out to fix them right away or attack any enemies that get too close. The hunched figure is occupied as cogitators adjust the shooting angles and issues orders to his troops. The tech priest stays calm during battle, his mind analyzing threats, guessing enemy strikes, and figuring out how likely it is that he will win. Belisarius Cawl has come up with a lot of new weapons, found a lot of STC files, and searched for information all over the galaxy, even going into the Eye of Terror once. Many problems, deletions, and mixed-up bibelots have left big holes in Cawl's old memories, but what's left fills vaulted rooms the size of battle cruisers. There are mountains of data in the stacks of Binharic code, ranging from the plans for wonder engines lost since the age of technology to the hundreds of Xenos races he helped eradicate. This information base is unlike any other. It has everything from a galactic census done during the Great Crusade to studies of communication problems after the Great Rift was born. This collection of information is so big that Cawl can't remember how large parts of it were gathered after 10,000 years. Even though the successful creation of the Primaris Space Marines and the subsequent Ultima founding were his most recent achievements, Archmagos Cawl believes he is working on even bigger projects right now. The Eldari Harlequin Shadowseer Silandri Veilwalker guided Cawl to the world of Eriad 6 during the 13th Black Crusade in 999. M41. He was in charge of the Archmagos Iron Revenant, a large Mechanicus fleet that included Skitarii troops and powerful Kataphron battle servitors. The Fourth Black Crusade in the 32nd Millennium had left Eriad 6, an old Imperial Navy base, empty. They didn't realise it, but Eriad 6 had also been a Necron tomb world. He discovered an ancient Necron relic following his battles with orcs, lured to the barren planet by the formidable Mechanicus fleet. He also gained further knowledge about the Cadian pylons, initially constructed by the Necrons to halt the Imperium's incursions into real space, particularly the Eye of Terror. Cawl reluctantly followed Veilwalker's mysterious orders to go to Cadia, which was already under attack by Abaddon the Despoiler's large Chaos forces. When he got there, he provided much-needed extra assistance to Lord Castellan Osaka E. Creed's struggling Imperial forces. With what he had learned from Eriad 6, Cawl started to look into the local Xenos pylons while he was on Cadia. While he was doing this, Trazyn the Infinite, the Necron overlord who had chosen to help humanity fight their common enemy in the warp, informed him that he was there. Cawl was suspicious of the Necron's intentions, but his interest in the pylon's highly advanced Necron technology made him forget his dislike of Xenos and accept the Necron's help. Because Trazyn knew about the pylons, Cawl was able to figure out how to use them to keep the Immaterium from reaching the local area of space-time. Cawl turned on the pylons just as the ground battle between the Despoiler's invaders and Osaka E. Creed's defenders hit its peak. The Necron technology worked exactly as planned. It cut Cadia off from the warp, sent the demons of chaos away, shrunk the Eye of Terror, and gave the people protecting Cadia another slim chance to win. The Despoiler would not give up easy though, because he had been looking for the prize for thousands of years. Abaddon knew there would be a need for a backup plan, so he had the damaged main part of the Blackstone Fortress Will of Eternity thrown from orbit as a fake meteor onto the land of Cadia. The attack from the Imperial Fist's Starfort phalanx disabled the fortress's systems, prompting Abaddon to take action. The massive kinetic strike decimated the remnants of the world's defences, ensuring its engulfment by the rapidly expanding Eye of Terror. Lord Castellan Creed commanded the evacuation of the dying world. The Imperial survivors of Cadia, led by Cawl, Saint Celestine, Inquisitor Katarina Greyfax, and Marshal Marius Amalrich of the Black Templars, formed the Celestinian Crusade and used every void ship they could find, including the Iron Revenant, to get the 3 million survivors off of Cadia. Because of the unstable Immaterium near the Cadian Gate, the Imperial fleet couldn't enter the warp. They had to run through the Cadia system at almost the speed of light, and the Chaos war fleets followed them. In order for the Celestinian Crusade to reach Clasus, the nearby ice moon of Casa Holn, the biggest and most powerful Imperial capital ship left, Cawl's Iron Revenant bravely gave up its life in battle against Abaddon's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. The loss of the Iron Revenant wasn't in vain, because the Inari finally came through Clasus's secret webway gate and saved the Celestinians from chaos attacks and the harsh Arctic environment. Despite losing his flagship, Belisarius Cawl discovered and preserved its most precious cargo, the Armour of Fate, essential for reviving the Primarch Rabut Guilliman. The Despoiler's forces fiercely attacked the realm of Ultramar on the eastern edges of the galaxy, where they guided the Celestinians through the webway. After being wary at first, the Ultramarines eventually took the Celestinians. Ultramar was home to the realm's capital world, Macragge. Once Cawl got to the Ultramarines' fortress of Hera, he told them what the objects in his personal shrine were, He explained that their mission was to revive Primarch Robert Guilliman, who had been in stasis in the Temple of Correction for 10,000 years due to a fatal wound. Chaos forces were attacking hard in the Primarch's final resting place, but Cawl and Ivrain, the daughter of Shades and priestess of Inead, the Aldari god of the dead, were able to bring the Primarch back to life, while Cawl's technology fixed his terrible wound. After bringing Guilliman back to life, the Primarch drove the attackers out of Ultramar and then chose to travel to Terra through the warp anomalies, which were causing so much chaos in the galaxy that it had not been seen since the Horus heresy. Cawl joined Primarch on this Terran crusade. His knowledge of technology and battle skills helped the Imperial forces of the crusade overcome all of their problems in the Maelstrom, a warp gap. Those who survived the Terran crusade finally made it to the Sol system at Luna via the Webway. The Red Corsairs' Blackstone Fortress had freed them. The fallen Angel Cypher and a group of Harlequins saved Cawl, one of the few Imperials in Cadia, at the fall of the city, and he survived both the Celestinian and Terran crusades. On Luna, Cawl and his friends helped beat the forces of the Thousand Sons Traitor Legion and the Demon Primarch, Magnus the Red. The ferry then transported them to the Imperial Palace on Terra. Cawl talked with his fellow mechanics and the Primarch in front of the Eternity Gate of the Inner Palace, which led to the Emperor's throne room. That's where Guilliman would meet his father for the first time in 10 standard millennia. His words were vague. He talked about secret agreements made on Mars and long projects that were finally coming to an end. Cawl left the Primarch pleased and went back to his forge on Mars to see these projects through to the end. In fact, Cawl's work on Mars was nothing more than an attempt to make the Emperor's creations better. Before the demon Primarch Fulgrim killed the Archmagos Dominus at the Battle of Thessalia in the days following the Horus heresy, he had been working on a different project for 10 standard millennia. That project was to lead a new army of transhuman warriors. Chaos nearly destroyed the Imperium in the years following the Terran Crusade, marking the end of Cawl's work. Following 10 standard millennia of work by Cawl on Mars, a new group of transhuman soldiers called the Primaris Space Marines emerged. The Emperor created the first Space Marines as a genetic blueprint for his Great Crusade. Cawl used this as a starting point to create the new Astartes. Primaris Space Marines are believed to be larger, stronger, and more responsive than their original Astartes counterparts. Training for the Primaris Space Marines took place in 999. M41. They are a new type of hero, and this is the worst time in the history of the Imperium of Man. These new fighters were the next step in the evolution of the Emperor's Angels of Death. They also came at the right time to help the Imperium's armies, whose enemies were closing in for the kill after Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade and the opening of the Great Rift, which split the Imperium in two. Cawl directed the production of new weapons and armour for these gene-forged warriors on Mars. For example, the Mark X power armour, worn by the different types of Primaris Space Marines, combined the most effective parts of the ancient Horus heresy battleplate with more recent advances in power armour technology. Other examples include the re-engineered, recrafted and improved Mark II Cawl pattern bolt rifle, the Mark III Belisarius pattern plasma incinerator, the Redemptor dreadnoughts, the Overlord gunship and Repulsor grav tanks. They joined the reborn Lord Commander of the Imperium in his fight to free the scattered bastions of Imperial space at the start of the Indomitus crusade, which Guilliman had called to push back the forces of chaos. Some of them, including Guilliman, turned into new Space Marine chapters, which were like brotherhoods made up of only these new transhuman fighters. He has also extended his offer to the existing Space Marine chapters. A lot of chapter masters have been thrilled to have Primaris Brother in their groups. Others, on the other hand, are wary or even hostile toward these new products, arguing that ordinary people should never have messed with the Emperor's work. Despite not having a direct lineage to their primaries, the Primaris Space Marines inherit some of their genes. Some people are worried about how this new type of warrior will react to the known genetic flaws and quirks of some of the more unusual chapters, like the Blood Angels and the Space Wolves. The Primaris Space Marines give the trapped Imperium new hope, but the future is still dark and scary. During the Indomitus Crusade, Guilliman gave Cawl full freedom to come up with new technologies that would help the Imperium's troops finally turn back the tides of chaos. Guilliman gave Cawl permission to repair Guilliman's flagship, the Macragge's Honour, using both new technology and unique combinations of old tools. During the Indomitus Crusade, the old Archmagos was the Imperium's sole source of new technology. They created a lot of new vehicles and weapons for the Primaris Space Marine legions, as well as the original chapters of the firstborn Adeptus Astartes. During the first 10 years of the Indomitus crusade, Cawl became less interested in the rest of the galaxy and more focused on his mission to train and perfect the Primaris Space Marines of the Ultima founding, so that they could be sent wherever the Primus fleet went to help firstborn Space Marine chapters, or start new chapters that were only Primaris Marines. In line with this strategy, he attempted to persuade Guilliman to permit him to utilise genetic material from the 9 prohibited genetic lines of the traitor legions, as well as from the 2 long-lost second-ticked legions. Cawl said that there was nothing wrong with these gene lines because their Space Marines had done exactly what the Emperor wanted them to do. He also said that adding their wide range of tactics to the Imperium would make the new Primaris Marines much stronger. Cawl said that the traitor legions and the lost legions were flawed because of their primarchs, not their genes. He strongly refused, though, and told the Archmagos not to go any further with the study. He did this even though he knew Cawl would probably go after such heretical lines of inquiry on his own. Guilliman wasn't stupid. He knew that all Adeptus Mechanical Magi were eager to learn. When they possessed knowledge, they rarely lacked it. When it came to this matter, he had no faith in Cawl at all. At the Battle of Raukos, 12 standard years after it began, the Indomitus Crusade had finished its first phase of stabilising the Imperium Sanctus. Guilliman had already instructed Cawl to initiate a crucial new research project, determining the potential use of the Blackstone Cadian pylon technology developed by the Necrons millions of years ago to seal the Great Rift. Cawl had repeatedly asked Roboute Guilliman to become the Fabricator General of Mars. As the Lord Commander of the Imperium and Imperial Regent, Guilliman replaced hundreds of lower High Lords and 5 of the High 12 of the Senatorum Imperialis when he took over as the Monarch of the Imperium. Cawl wondered what would change if the Primarch removed another Lord, but Guilliman said that the Imperium did not have such strict political control over Mars as required by the old Treaty of Mars. He said that the Primarch could not choose his own general fabricator, and even if he could, the other tech priests would not accept it. Cawl answered this argument by talking about all the things he had done for the parish over the last 10,000 years. He was the only one who could open, understand, and improve the Emperor's work. He knew everything there was to know about the 100 different areas of science and wasn't afraid of new ideas. Archmagos thought he was the best person to rule Mars and the rest of the Mechanicus. Guilliman thought about doing this, but it would lead to a full-on civil war in the sub-empire of Forge Worlds, controlled by the Adeptus Mechanicus. Many of Cawl's colleagues would strongly disagree with that decision. Particularly, they believed that Cawl had committed numerous heinous acts that contradicted the principles of the cult Mechanicus, such as interacting with Xenos and employing prohibited technology. People in Cawl's group in the cult Mechanicus would not like this if they knew the whole story behind what the Archmagos did. In fact, a lot of tech priests hated Belisarius Cawl because they saw him as an arch-heretic who didn't follow any of the machine god's rules. Cawl thought that they were only upset because they were jealous of how much more he knew than them. Some people would try to harm Cawl and the things he made. A small group of dedicated Mechanicus tech priests had formed around the Archmagos by the end of the first part of the Indomitus Crusade, just before the Plague Wars began. His willing slaves were eager to assist him in pursuing this radical new path known as innovation. On the other hand, Cawl's big rejection of the Adeptus Mechanicus's views and dogma made him very unpopular with the traditionalists and conservatives in the Mechanicus. Because of this growing political opposition, Guilliman was also worried about his ally Cawl. He knew that Cawl's desire for new ideas could lead him down the same road that sent the first Dark Mechanicum to hell over 10,000 years ago. The Primarch knew Cawl's desire to rise could cause problems for the Imperium, so he had to be tough with his old friend. Due to his dedication to many projects going on at the same time, the old Archmagos has added many separate consciousnesses to keep track of them all. To help him reach his goals and focus more on his study and finding lost technology again, Cawl built at least 2 AI devices, one of which was called the Cawl Inferior. Roboute Guilliman's old flagship, Macragga's Honour, housed one. Cawl had hidden it deep inside the powerful ship, in a room only the Primarch and some invited people could access. The Tsar Quesitor, Cawl's own Art Mechanicus, had a similar gadget put on it. Guidus Lucenti, a single master astropath, ran this huge machine. After leaving the Indomitus Crusade to embark on his own mission to understand the workings of the Necrons' Blackstone Cadian pylons and their potential to close the Great Rift, Cawl frequently used this machine to communicate with Guilliman from a distance. Their astro-telepathic interactions through their Cawl Inferiors remained unhacked, unlike the astro-telepathy that had been compromised since the Great Rift opened. Cawl's malevolent apparatus consisted of hundreds of severed, yet living servant heads, deck-sized, psychically active cogitator processors, and components evidently originating from other planets. It was able to exactly copy Cawl's voice and mannerisms when talking to the Lord Commander of the Imperium, but it insisted it was a completely different being. When the Cawl Inferior talked to Guilliman, it said that it wanted to act like a human, so that the Primarch would feel better about its strange life. Belisarius Cawl and the Imperial Regent intended this introduction to diffuse tensions and reconcile. The changes Cawl had made to his body to keep his mind alive had stripped him of most of his humanity. Despite his 10,000-year lifespan, his feelings had become ghosts within the massive Cawl Inferior machine that his mind now resided in. Since they were going through the machine, they shouldn't have been there at all. What was shocking, though, was that the Cawl Inferior's emotionless speech sometimes had sardonic humour in it, even in this lifeless copy. Guilliman claims that the Cawl Inferior integrated the information into the device itself. The device's operating system, Master Astropath, sent the correct answers as an encrypted message. The creator of the Cawl Inferior gave it a number of pre-rendered scenarios that he had mathematically estimated to be possible in different situations. The Cawl Inferior's author's messages only slightly altered those predictions to align with the actual situation. The Cawl Inferior already had its code loaded. Linked brains and reasoning engines in most of the vessel's chamber held all the possible outcomes that were important to Guilliman and Cawl's job. The Cawl Inferior's memory banks stored all possible futures. Although it claimed to be reliable, Guilliman did not trust the gadget or its maker. The Cawl Inferior asserted that there was no such thing as an abominable intelligence capable of self-awareness, a trait that machines were not supposed to possess. Cawl had carefully planned the actions of the thing before its construction. The organic nature of the servitor brains that comprised the Cawl Inferior's body allowed it to function without violating any of the Adeptus Mechanicus or the Emperor's technological rules. The Cawl Inferiors were not really machines or separate original creations. Instead, they were a limited representation of Belisarius Cawl's own fully human, if enhanced, mind. This was said to prevent the inferior Cawl from being affected by the evil effects of the illegal field of artificial general intelligence. But Guilliman thought it was likely that the Cawl Inferior was actually a machine intelligence device, pretending to be a non-intelligent gadget. Although Guilliman wasn't as good at technology as his brothers Perturabo, Vulcan, or Ferrus Manus, he didn't believe the Archmagos when he told him how his creation really worked. This was especially true since it clearly used power from the warp, which was one reason why Master Astropath Guidus Lazenti didn't want to be near the machine. After activating it with the code Cawl had sent him astro-telepathically, it was clear that the Cawl Inferior was partly mental and a mix of different Xenos and Imperial technologies. This made it definitely heretical by the rules of the Adeptus Mechanicus, even though it lacked the ability to think independently. This further underscored the need to closely monitor Cawl to prevent him from turning into a true heretic, regardless of his potential benefits. After the Great Rift opened, Necrons attacked every part of the Imperium. These included mining colonies, night worlds, forge worlds, and other main Adeptus Mechanicus colonies. When the Rift opened, it released a huge amount of chaos energy into real space. This triggered anti-warp measures in every Necron tomb world, and things that had been dormant for ages began to stir again. The Necrontyr killed the feared technomandrites of Magistrak eons ago, and now they're returning to exact revenge and reclaim control of the other Necron houses they lost. Despite numerous theories, the reason behind the Necrons' attack on Forge World and Archmagos Belisarius Cawl remains a mystery. The tech priests became scared because they were already under attack from Chaos and alien forces that came after the split opened. Now, the Necrons were attacking from inside the temple. Both sides were searching for Blackstone, a strange material that could alter the warp. After the fall of Cadia, they made the Cadian pylons from Blackstone. When the things who had been sleeping on Necron tomb worlds woke up, many Mechanicus bases, built on sites rich in this valuable resource, found themselves on these worlds. Robert Guilliman gave Belisarius Cawl the task of finding a way to close the Great Rift. To do this, he sent his own agents across the stars, along with armies from Mars and House Tyrannus, to fight the growing threat. numerous Forge Worlds engaged in hundreds of battles to support their fellow Forge Worlds. Even tech priests, who began to realise the true severity of the situation, hesitated to seek assistance from their Imperial allies against the Necrons, fearing the label of heretics. When the Great Rift opened up, it split the galaxy in half at the start of the era Indomitus. This activated the Pharos, an old Necron warp station on the world of Sotha in the Ultima Segmentum. The Emperor's sides discovered this. After the Genestealer cult and the High Fleet Kraken destroyed the planet in the Second Tyrannic War, they continued to guard the remnants of Sotha. Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Cawl led a group to Sotha with the Ultramarines and the last of the Emperor's firstborn Space Marines to study the Pharos technology and maybe use it to close the Great Rift and beat chaos. People from the Genestealer cult attacked the mission. They got in by pretending to be chapter serfs of the Emperor's scythes. Finally, the Genestealer Patriarch, whose cult had sent High Fleet Kraken to attack Sotha during the Second Tyrannic War, killed the last of that chapter's firstborn Marines, along with their chapter master Thracius in battle. Upon reaching the Pharos, Cawl discovered that a piece of Ketan Zahulash the Potentate had powered the old Pharos. Zahulash, the alien star god, struck a deal with Cawl. He would destroy the device by extracting its heart, thereby creating a devastating, tiny singularity. In return, Cawl promised to free the Catan Shard from the chains of Necrodermis and use the Pharos to open a portal that would let him escape Sotha for good. It looked like Cawl agreed, but it was all a trick. He actually teleported Zahulash to a distant galaxy where hostile Necron tomb worlds ringed the Catan Shard. Zahulash swore to get revenge on Cawl for betraying him. Cawl got away from Sotha and looked into the Pharos' heart to get a lot of information. This included finding other Pharos devices and large amounts of blackstone, an important mineral, all over the galaxy. In the end, Cawl hoped that this knowledge would help him come up with a technological way to close the Great Rift for good. If someone is capable to push back, and even to close the Great Rift, it's Belisarius Cawl. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Until next time, have a wonderful day.